G'day, how you doing? Adam here from Poseidon Racing with another video in this series, which of course is the ultimate beginner's guide to Zed Run. Everything that you need to know to take your stable from 0 horses and 0 knowledge all the way to the top of Zed Run. Well, fingers crossed, that is the plan anyway. Let's jump in. Today we're going to look at, is my horse a donkey? And if it is a donkey, what do we do with it? All right, let's change over full screen and discuss. Now, the whole donkey thing, is your horse a donkey? Is my horse a donkey? Look, it's an inevitable part of Zed Run. The majority of the horses are not superstar, monster, win every race style horses, okay? Most of the horses in the Zed Run ecosystem are average to below average to absolutely terrible. Now, what if we have one of those horses that's absolutely terrible? Or first of all, how do we decide if our horse is absolutely terrible? And if we think it is, what do we do with it? So I'm here again at knowyourhorses.com. I love this site. It's a great little research site where you can see all kinds of stats that are helpful in deciding how good or bad is our horse. Okay, so I did a little bit of research and I found a horse that I thought looked a bit iffy, and I copy and pasted it here. I've copy and pasted that horse's name. It's called Widow's Walk. You can do the same with any of your horses to try and figure out exactly how good or bad they are. And you can even do this when you're looking to buy a raced horse, is come in here and do a little bit of research so you can see Widow's Walk here. Shout out to Parmesan Don Collection Stable there. I hope it's okay that I'm using your horse. I just happened to see that it got 40 to 1 odds or $40 odds in a recent race, and I thought maybe this would be the style of horse that we could discuss. What if you have a horse and it's getting $40 odds? Okay, 40 odds or $40 odds towards the worst end of that scale. Ideally, we want our horse getting something sub $10, 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, 5s, 4s even. If we got a horse that's getting $4 odds, we're doing the happy dance. We got a horse that's getting the 40s or the 44s, head down, what are we going to do with it? Okay, let's have a look at this horse. It's only had 5 races. It is a Z7 Genesis Finny. I love myself a Finny, but maybe not one that's performing in this manner. 5 races, no wins, no places, no shows. Okay, now 5 races is about the minimum in the current system that you need to start thinking about whether or not your horse is worth continually, racing on into the future, or maybe you retire until something further develops. Let's have a look and see how this horse has been raced early days. I haven't had a look yet. Let's see if it was raced with some thought behind it. And I would say yes, it has been raced pretty well. Okay, I mean, you get to a Griffin and you got $27 odds here. Let's click on that race. I mean, it's kind of like, well, have I got myself a donkey here? And you got to start thinking at $27 in a Griffin. That's about as bad as it gets, to be honest. And you got to wonder, like, is it a really, really strong Griffin? And we look through these horses initially for the Z numbers. Are there a lot of low Zs, 1s and 2s? No, there's not. The Z7 is almost the lowest Z number in this race, other than that Z6 at the top here. So it doesn't look to be particularly strong. So one tip that you could do when you enter your Griffin, what you could do if you're super duper patient is you can wait. So you enter the Griffin and you get $5 odds or you get $26 odds like this one here. You can wait for a couple of weeks until those top horses in your Griffin have run 5 or 10 or 20 races. So for example, Stiletto here, being the favourite in this race, and Southern Belle, have they run a few more races? Can we tell if they're quality? No, Stiletto's only run 1 race, so we can't really tell of Stiletto's quality. If it's maybe it could be a monster, and this is a really strong Griffin. And Southern Belle, the second favourite. Come on. Here we go. Oh, it's only had 3 races. But its odds are staying relatively consistent, so that's a good sign too, or a better sign. And you can do a little bit of research. So when was this Griffin? It was only in the last 24 hours or so by the looks of things. Okay, so you could wait a little bit of time, particularly, for example, if you had a $4 or $5 Griffin odds horse, often what can happen is you move into the next race and it's $15 or $20 odds, okay? And the reason behind that is your Griffin wasn't very, very strong and your horse was just a standout in a bad bunch. You know, the shorter odds of a bad bunch. But if you had waited a month and left those odds at $4 or $5, it's still risky, but you can see, okay, well, there's nothing that's standing out in that particular field of 12 horses or the 11 horses other than my horse that have run. There's nothing doing well. So maybe my $5 were a bit of, you know, just the best horse in a bad bunch, as I said. And you could then decide, and this is where the super risk factor comes in, you could then decide to maybe sell that horse rather than enter it in another race. But the risky thing is, you could have a $5 odds horse in a Griffin that was a weak race that is still a monster. But you could also have a $5 horse in a Griffin of a weak race Griffin that goes on to be a 15, 20, 30 to 1 type horse in paid racing. Okay, so you take that risk in your own hands. I'm not sure. I think if I had a $5 odds horse, I would want to at least unwrap it a little bit further to see if it wasn't, you know, really, really good. I would want to take that risk, I think, myself. Okay, let's go back here. We'll just click back on Widow's Walk. And I am pretty confident in the current set of circumstances that this horse is a donkey. Is there anywhere we could run this horse distance-wise that might suggest it could be okay? Well, look, we've had 1800, 1400, 2018, 2-2. 2-2 is on the long side, and it's 45 to 1 up there. So I would doubt that this horse is going to be any good at 2-6. I probably, well, in saying that, you've got 1400 on the short side at 45 to 1, $45 odds as well. I would also doubt that it's going to be any good at 1000 metres, for example. I would seriously doubt if this horse has much to offer as a racer at any distance given these first 5 races. Okay, so we've ascertained that this is probably a classic donkey. Okay, and it's a genesis, and that happens. But being a genesis in particular, what does that mean? Are there going to be circumstances in the future where this horse can potentially shine? Well, we can't rule that out. And that, again, is a risk factor that you have to sort of weigh up now. Do we try and offload this horse potentially at a loss? Or do we hang on to it, maybe experiment on the breeding side of things? Is that going to work? Well, it could do. Have we seen other $40 odds horses produce champions? I don't know the stats on that. Potentially, I think that is possible. Could future traits and future race styles suit this horse? Well, yes, absolutely. You know, at the moment, the only trait that is in existence or influencing the results of these horse races is distance preference. And we're hearing that things like weather preference, track condition, gate number, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through to 12, gate preference, location preference, particular track preference, and even things like maybe Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere preferences, as well as things like handicap. Might this horse be an absolute monster handicap racer? Well, it's all possible. So we need to sort of weigh that up. Myself, I've been selling off a lot of horses like this, but I'm absolutely sure in the future that at least 1 or 2 horses are going to bite me on the butt. You know, when particularly handicap, that could just mix things up tremendously. And some of these $40 odds horses could then be winners and profitable if you choose and pick the right races. Now, I can't guarantee that, But you have to develop your vision for the future and then sort of weigh up, all right, well, I've got this horse. It's a bit of a donkey, or it's a dead set donkey currently. Do I sell that and try and get into another horse? Do I try and breed it and see if we can breed some champions that suit today's game? Or do we wait for today's game to evolve and cross our fingers that this horse is going to be able to win races in some other style of racing, whether that be tournament knockout style racing, whether that be handicap style racing, whether that be racing in the rain on a heavy track in Gate 1 in Sydney, Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere. Is that a possibility that that perfect combination of traits could suit this horse? It is a possibility. Is it a long shot? It's hard to say. I really don't know that far into the future. But right here, right now, is it worth holding a donkey? For example, if this was your only horse, is it worth holding this horse for 12, 18 months, or 6 to 18 months, to see how the game develops, and then see if this horse is going to be suitable for something or other? Or is it best to just move on right now, try and sell this horse and upgrade, or not necessarily upgrade, but move into another horse that maybe has a little bit more potential and a little bit more fun in the game right here, right now? That is for you to decide. But look, I think $40 odds, how do we, just to wrap this up, how do we determine if this horse is a donkey? Look, I think if you're getting $45 odds across multiple different distances, you know, in here we've got 2 grade 4s, one at 1400 and one at 22. The other thing you can do is you can try and sort of weigh up, if you like, or check what the race strength is like. So if you're in this class 4 here, 2-2, and it's got some real absolute weapons in there, let's have a look. Is there anything in here that scares me? Here's the favourite here. How good is that favourite? That's an absolute monster, isn't it? So that is a gun horse. So your horse is coming up against Strange Aeons. Is that how you pronounce that? I got no idea. And it's got a 17% win rate, and it's a, you know, it's a top horse. So maybe in a weaker competition, maybe in the right free race, this horse that we have here, Widow's Walk, maybe in the right free race, you can get into the top 3, or maybe even jag a few wins. You can see there's been a couple of free races at 1800 and 2000. This one was a class 2. I certainly wouldn't be upgrading or stepping up class with this particular horse. I would keep it in its class. I would try a few free races, maybe round about 1200, 1000 in class 4s. You're a chance that you might enter those races, I think, being $12. You might even get the odd one crack under 10, and then jag a win or two. That will lift the value up. Now, there's also another trait that might be developing with this horse, and that is consistency. Often you'll see some horses that are really, really consistent, and what I mean by that is they will tend to finish at one particular position in the field a lot of the time, and then it will taper off pretty quickly. So for example, this might be a horse that likes to finish 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and doesn't really ever finish 9th through 12th very often, and doesn't really ever finish 1, 2, 3 too often. Now I have a hunch that within the genetic traits of these Zed horses that you have things like speed, stamina, you know, there might be a luck factor or something like that, but there is also what I believe to be a consistency factor. Okay, so this particular horse may have a high level of consistency, and in the future, who knows, in the future breeding barn, maybe consistency will be something that we need to breed into our horses. This horse may not be great at racing right now. It may not be great at racing at breeding and producing champions right now. But in the future, maybe it has a valuable trait that is necessary for producing future champions in a certain style of racing. We need to weigh all of that up. It also comes down to, as I said, if this is your only horse, do we try and get away from it and get into something that is more suitable now. But if this is a horse and you have 10 others or 5 others, then maybe you can afford to hang on to it and see how things develop. Okay, so you've got all that to weigh up. Hopefully you don't get too many of these donkey type horses right here, right now in these current racing circumstances. And hopefully the next one that you do get, whenever that may be, will be an absolute racing monster, and you can get in there and start enjoying winning a few of those races. Thanks again for watching along. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.